12 years, 12 long, painful years, a constant flow of suffering that never ceased. 12 years of bleeding, of being rejected, avoided, and isolated by those around her. Doctors failed her. Medicine gave no relief. Friends and family, gripped by fear and superstition, kept their distance. She was trapped in a world where hope was nearly impossible to find. But in the deepest shadows of despair, one thing remained: her faith. It never folded, never faltered. Through the exhaustion and heartache, through the loneliness and shame, she clung to the whisper of a promise she could not see, yet trusted completely. When life strips everything away, when every door seems closed, you are left with a choice between surrender and faith, between breaking and believing. And this woman, this desperate yet determined soul, chose to believe. This is Crowned and Called, a place where stories of purpose come alive. Stories of women who embody power through faith, courage, and unyielding hope. Here we celebrate the invisible battles fought in silence and the victories that transform lives. Because power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's found in the quiet pressing forward, the unseen touch, the whispered prayer. For 12 years she endured. Not just the physical pain that no medicine could heal, but the crushing isolation that came from being labeled unclean by her society. Imagine the weight of that. To be cast aside, not by choice, but by fear and misunderstanding. She could have screamed, demanded attention, cried out for justice, but she didn't. Instead, she chose silence, a brave, hopeful silence. Every day she faced a crowd that ignored her, avoided her, even shunned her. Yet beneath her quiet exterior burned a fierce determination. She didn't approach Jesus with fanfare or entitlement. She didn't demand his help or stage a spectacle. Instead, she reached with trembling hands, through the throng, through the obstacles, through her own doubts and fears. And then, in one profound moment, she touched his robe. That single touch, simple, silent, changed everything. It wasn't the power of the garment itself, but the faith behind it. Because Jesus didn't need a grand performance. He only needed the press of a heart desperate for healing. That touch carried a message far louder than words. It was a declaration that faith can break chains, that it can move mountains, that it can rewrite a life. The crowd around Jesus was thick and bustling, people jostling, voices rising in excitement, and feet shuffling on dusty roads. In such chaos, a single woman might have seemed insignificant, invisible even. She was just one among many. But in that moment, she was about to make history. She reached out through the crowd, trembling, weary from years of pain, but driven by a faith stronger than any suffering she had endured. Her fingers brushed the edge of his garment, a simple touch, almost unnoticed by the world. But for her, it was everything. It was the culmination of 12 years of desperate hope, 12 years of longing for healing that doctors could not provide and people refused to offer. This was no ordinary touch. This was a silent scream of faith, an unspoken prayer that said, "I believe you can heal me." Jesus felt it immediately. He didn't need to see her face or hear her voice. Her faith reached him before she even spoke. In the midst of the crowd, he stopped. He turned around, eyes searching for the source of that quiet power that had altered the course of his day. There, standing humble and weak, was the woman who had suffered alone for more than a decade. What happened next is the very heart of this story. Jesus did not recoil or condemn. He did not whisper the labels the world had forced upon her: unclean, outcast, untouchable. Instead, he called her daughter, a simple word, yet overflowing with meaning. It was a declaration of acceptance, of restoration, and of belonging. This moment rewrites everything we think we know about identity. In society's eyes, she was defined by her illness, by her pain, and by the stigma that came with it. But in Jesus' eyes, she was no longer a victim or a pariah. She was a beloved child of God, a daughter worthy of love, respect, and wholeness. The woman who came seeking physical healing left with something far greater. She left restored not only in body, but in spirit. She left whole, healed, empowered, and set free from the chains of shame and isolation. This transformation goes beyond the surface. It's an identity shift, a profound change in how she saw herself and how the world was invited to see her. This story teaches us about the power of encounter, the power that comes when we are truly seen, truly known, and truly loved. Jesus' words are a reminder that healing isn't just about the physical. It's about reclaiming our dignity, our purpose, and our place in the family of God. For the woman with the issue of blood, this wasn't just a miracle of healing, it was a miracle of identity. It was a moment where her past pain was not erased, but transformed, where years of suffering were not denied, but redeemed, where the labels others gave her were stripped away and a new name was given: daughter. Her faith made more noise than any shout or protest could. It was the faith behind the touch that changed everything. This teaches us that sometimes the greatest acts of courage are quiet ones, the silent presses of a heart that refuses to give up even when the world has turned away. And this identity shift is not just for her, it's for all of us. For anyone who has felt invisible, rejected, or unworthy. For anyone who has struggled under the weight of labels, pain, or past mistakes. The story of the woman with the issue of blood reminds us that in the presence of divine love and faith, our identities can be rewritten. We are not defined by our wounds or our pasts. We are defined by the love that calls us daughter, son, beloved, chosen. This is the power of encounter, the power of faith meeting grace. So, when you feel unseen, unheard, or overlooked, remember her story. Remember that even the smallest touch of faith can move mountains. That even the quietest act of belief can shift your identity and your destiny. Jesus' response to her wasn't just a reaction. It was a declaration. It was a public proclamation that nothing, not even years of suffering or social rejection, can separate us from the power of divine love and restoration. Her story invites us all to press forward with faith, to reach out even when hope seems distant, and to believe that we too can be made whole, body, mind, and spirit. Today, maybe you feel overlooked. Maybe you've been dismissed, ignored, or drained by life's battles. Maybe the world sees you as broken or unclean. But just like the woman who reached through the crowd, heaven sees your press, your faith, even the smallest, quietest moments of it, still has power. It can stop everything else in its tracks. It can break through barriers and open new doors. Keep reaching, keep pressing forward, because one moment of faith, one small, desperate touch can change your story forever. Your press still has power. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. Subscribe to Crowned and Called, Stories of Purpose, Women of Power. Join us as we discover together how faith, courage, and determination transform lives, rewrite identities, and crown the broken with strength.